Welcome guys. Okay, so just an update. I'm going to do a live activation today on the religious programming. I think I mentioned that last week. Next week we're going to be doing the Galactic Center connection, and that's the actual exercise. It's a meditation. It's very powerful. I've done it myself. If you haven't got the information on that, just go to my podcast. Because I've put the information, the channel messages on the podcast, and as I said last week, I'm trying to keep things separate so there's not the same information running on both platforms. However, the activation needs to really be done live on Facebook. So yeah, please catch up with that because I won't be repeating. I might read out the message again, but if you can catch up with that beforehand, even better. So we're going to be doing a clearing today of the religious programming. So it's going to be a live activation. But I'm going to talk first. I'm going to give you the channel message. So just make sure, if you want to do this now, just to get comfortable, make sure you've got no other people around you. Try and just have some private time for the next sort of 20 minutes or so. But like I said, I'll give you a minute or two before we start, so you can get comfortable. Just say hi everyone. A few people waving. Nice to see you on. So basically, I've also got a message. Tim Coleman had written a message or a question on the feed a couple of days ago, so I'm going to answer that, and I'll read out his actual question just in case you haven't seen it, and it's quite relevant really for some of the stuff that's going on. What we want to focus on, as I've always said, things are changing on a month-to-month, even week-to-week basis. And the feedback from most people, and I mentioned this in the video last week, is that fatigue, that real heaviness, and that is the collective energy starting to move through us. So the more sensitive we are picking up on everyone else's energy, because like I said, most things are happening beyond in the invisible world at the moment, more than the conscious physical world. And the other thing is the appetite. Appetites have been going. So if you don't feel you need to eat, don't, because the lighter your body is, the quicker the energy can transform it. As soon as you put food into your body, obviously all the blood goes into the stomach, but it just solidifies the energy field. So when shifts are occurring, it's always try and keep as light as, and just have a couple of juice days, just drink lots of water. The water will move the energy through the body, because when consciousness comes into the meridian system, it transforms into electricity. So you need water to push the electricity through the body. So just be aware of that. And like I said, any aches and pains coming up now, deep despair is going to be coming up, more anger. Just acknowledge the feeling, don't get upset with it, because you are going to be feeling, like I said, other people's energies as well. The more sensitive we are, so just ride this wave. And I think the second wave of the COVID, they're about to release it, so it should be between now and September, maybe October. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but let's see. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the message first about the religious programming. Now, as you know, I talk to Amun Min and I channel the Viridians. The Viridians is my book. So this is the message from the Viridians, but Amin has spoken about this and added some information as well. And he basically said that everyone has this religious programming, regardless if they're an atheist in this life or whatever, because it's been seeded in our DNA, in our cells. And this misinformation has actually kept us away from connecting to our own souls and that energy field. So it's going to be coming up a lot, he said, in the next, well, from now really, and it's been coming up anyway for the last couple of years in people, but it's going to really come up now because everything's being pushed to the surface. So there's a lot of anger, resentment, abandonment, all of the betrayal, resistance to the creative forces. Now, if you want to call that God, it doesn't really matter, but it's the God paradigm that's been seeded. So it's good to check that out. Now, the programming, the activation we'll do today will trigger that which is denied, which is unconscious. Maybe you're not consciously aware of it. The activation will open up that field. It will clear as much as it can. But again, we have to be responsible for our own feelings. So you have to honour the feelings that it brings up. Now, that might come up today, might come up tomorrow, might come up in a week. But if you start to feel that energy, and that can also relate towards your own soul, towards your own self, because as we are all creator anyway, that self-hate or dislike for the creator or anger can actually be more towards ourselves first. So just own those feelings when they come up. Always give them a colour. See something in your mind. Give it love and gratitude, because you can't transform anything with anger or fear. So just breathe into it. Allow it to move through your body, because divine current will do the job. And that's the great thing about this quantum era of medicine now. They don't want us to use our minds. We don't actually do the healing. Divine current does the healing. So we just observe, and that observation is what actually creates the transformation. All right, and of course acceptance and detaching from the story. You have to detach from the story. As soon as you polarize yourself into the story from whatever belief systems and feelings that have been created from those stories and your events in your life and situations, you will always stay magnetized in the trauma. So you have to just get out the way. And this is very hard for the mind, but that's what we're all learning now, is to come out, because the time of the mind is over. It's the time of the heart now. And that is very, very evident, because everything our society is programmed and structure, and this sort of timeline that we're meant to live on is starting to break up already, and it's happening again on an unconscious level. So it's really important to stay out of the mainstream as much as possible and just be an observer of it, because you don't want to get pulled into all the the upheaval and despair. And just we can go through this transformation by working on ourselves and coming out and just observing the polarity as it balances itself, because otherwise you can get pulled into extreme anxiety, and I'm already seeing it in a few of my clients. It's really coming up, tumultuous really. So again, it depends on how much you've worked on yourself. But just be aware that some of the feelings aren't going to be yours. Okay, so not to worry and jump into that fear of shit, something's wrong with me. I need to go to the doctor. I need to get medication. So just be aware of all of that. Okay, so I'm going to read off the first message. So this is channeled from the Viridian consciousness. Okay. All right. Within the morphogenic field, you have what we term anchors or attachments that have within them a coding that hinders the light coming into the human aura. Now, you only need misalignment through misinformation to enslave a person into a certain narrative. The diabolical deeds of the church, the hate, the condemnation, has been seeded so deeply in human consciousness that most people on the planet actually fear God, and even God has been sold to you as a lie. The very fact God is separate to you is indeed the seeding information that pulled you out of alignment with the spirit world in the first place. When you think of God, now this is a question. When you think of God, what is the first thing you think, feel, or see in your mind? Now, unless you feel and see yourself, then you are conditioned and programmed with religious dictatorship propaganda. Most people see heaven in some form, a man or the religious art from a church, etc. Because even if you are aware of all the lies, you still have the programming. We want all of you to sit and feel the truth in your bodies, to just how much misinformation is running your own individual lives. The deep seeding of fear is starting to surface, and your religious practices are soon going to be revealed for what they truly are. And yes, some of you will go into despair, because in truth, they have planted that despair into you in the first place. You have to be responsible personally for these feelings when they surface, because you allowed yourself to swallow the lies in the first place. So it's not about blame to the perpetrators, but responsibility to the feeling it brings up in you. The cross represents conflict, despair, separation, dividing your polarity instead of embracing it. The cross, the religious cross, pushes the four aspects of your being outwards. Now, the four aspects, we have the conditioning of the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical bodies. We have the four elements, the four moon phases, and our four body system. So this is really about the polarizing, pushing all four bodies so they're not in alignment. Okay. So the cross pushes the four aspects of your being outwards. It keeps unity and alignment from manifesting. However, if you put a circle around the cross, the intention of division or dividing you is encapsulated in the energy, in pure love of the divine feminine, which balances the male and female aspects. Because straight lines are male energy and the circular is female. It literally neutralizes the negative energy by bathing it in a bubble of unconditional love. Religion denies and defies the feminine, the number 13. It fears the wrath of the divine feminine. Because when the pure force of the feminine is unleashed in rage, there is no male force that can stop it. Let go of all religious programming and beliefs. It's a cleverly designed construct to imprison your very soul from accessing the human extension. You can start to feel anger and hostility brewing in the cellular network because the light coming in is demanding the truth, and the cells that hold the misinformation are starting to get agitated, ready to release that which is not of light integrity. You have to be active in your own awakening. No one can do it for you. You need to realize you have the power to direct your cells and DNA to work for you, to assist in the process of removing 3D rigidity to finally start living free. And Amin had explained that the images of the cross has put in the cellular structure of human beings the inadequacy, fear and doubt. Because like for example, like a McDonald's sign is very, very powerful. It's seeded in the consciousness of humans. So you see a McDonald's sign, you naturally get hungry, or you're attracted to it. And like it's like these powerful corporate companies, the symbol, and a lot of the ancient satanic groups and all the underground groups, they all have these symbols of power. And the more we tune into them, the more we fall into the narrative or the energy that's been created around it. So it sort of sucks you in. The darker forces, or the cabal, whatever you want to call them, are master manipulators, are twisting our consciousness and using our imagination against us, because imagination is the greatest, most powerful tool human beings have, but they don't realize that. Because when you imagine something, you take your consciousness from the physical into the non-physical. So just imagining opens up doorways that your conscious mind cannot see. And this is, again, and I mentioned this before, why Einstein got all of his ideas and knowledge and answers to things through the imagination. It was never through the conscious mind. It's too programmed, too conditioned. The conscious mind, like he said, will take you from A to Z. Imagination will take you everywhere. And they said he was going mad in the last 10 years because he said love was the only real force of the universe. And when you connect into that, because light is love in active form. So if you connect in with love, you connect in with light. Now light is information. So he was accessing information through streams of light that were coming down through his consciousness. So again, we all have this ability. So this is what we're now starting to wake up to. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to read, before we do the activations, I'm going to do it last. So I've been a couple of minutes away. So this was Tim's question. I'll just abbreviate it. He said, it seems to me that there's a battle going underway, in essence, a kind of spiritual war with the unfolding of world events. Lines are clearly emerging between light and dark, and the ruthlessness of the dark and what is behind the 1% is undeniable. What is the purpose of becoming more at one aligned, conscious, awake? How does being in the fourth, fifth dimension, etc., help in this time of crisis? Okay. So this is a channeled message to answering that question, basically. Okay, right. Firstly, understand you are already on all planes of consciousness. Okay, and I've said this before, we already exist in every different dimension or density. We have a body on every level. So, what are you doing? So, okay, I'll start again, sorry. Firstly, understand you are on all planes of consciousness. What you are doing is experiencing what it feels like to move into a higher or lighter vibration while still in a body. You are not ascending anywhere. And this terminology has to cease in your New Age movement. You are simply having an experience. What it feels like to take complete responsibility for everything you have created as you shed that emotional charge. To experience light on earth. To experience true freedom in a body. To finally come back to multidimensional living whilst living in form. You cannot ascend anywhere if you are already everywhere. Stop thinking you need to go somewhere. It's impossible, because you can only experience everywhere when you are nowhere. You just are. You are still, and only in stillness, in grounding, can you experience everything, everywhere. There are those amongst you who are magnetizing yourself and those around you to the beliefs of being from somewhere else. Your egos are trying to separate you from everyone else, saying, I'm from this planet and I channel this being and I know what's best because I'm enlightened and you are not. Well, these people will be hitting a brick wall because they clearly haven't worked on themselves. Because when you are in alignment and emotionally clear, your soul would never speak of this. It would never project outside of itself, nor pontificate its ideas over another. You are simply surrendering to what already exists within you, and only in stillness can you receive all that is required. The darker forces, or your twin in polarity, is fading through their own shadow projection. They are no longer a threat, and you will see their story in the mainstream narrative. So, it's about an experience, and you can choose to have an amazing one or a depressing time. That's up to you, but we will not save you. You have to do it yourselves. That way you can say, I mastered Earth life. We are always in love and support of all of you. However, start asking your spiritual teams, your own souls, to assist you in your daily lives with everything. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Only in the moment can you feel what is required. Okay. So, of course, you know, there's so many light beings been here since day one before we even arrived that could clean up this planet, could remove all the dark forces within an hour. But they're never going to do that because we have to grow and take responsibility for ourselves. And again, this is what's problem with the rallying and, you know, against the establishment. You know, if we don't take responsibility for those feelings, for our ancestral feelings as well, because we carry all of that, no amount of rallying or protesting against the government is going to change anything, because the only way you can transform something is if you transform yourselves, because that's where the power is. And again, our New Age movement has twisted that as well. And, you know, so we really have to come back to the basics, you know, and like I said before, if you know everything's already inside you and all you have to do is surrender, uncondition the conditioning, it's way more powerful and empowering than I have to go and learn how to ascend. I have to go and do another 10,000 courses or 10,000 meditations or this and this and this to get enlightenment. You're already enlightened. You're just unconditioning. So it's about being still now. We've been so caught up in the rat race, this timeline, this 9-to-5 slave model, the hysteria of shopping and social media, that's all been designed to take us out of alignment. You know, the base chakra has been attacked constantly. I mean, hugely attacked. So you've got the base chakra was attacked with Brexit, and it's being attacked now with COVID, because the more fear you're in, the more separation you are feeling. And of course, when we're in fear, our immune systems drop and we're more susceptible to propaganda, suggestions, picking up viruses and all the rest of it. So it's very, very cleverly orchestrated. All right. So, okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do this clearing of the religious programming. And like I said, whatever it brings up in you, you have to be responsible for that yourself. What this will do is it will start to remove the polarization. So for example, if you get, there's 4 levels of source. We have the physical, we have the sort of emotional body, we have the spirit body, and then we have the unconscious. Okay, so we have the physical grounding, which is the anchoring portal. It's the biological receptive self. Now this is contributed through the earth element, and this is about the conscious mind. And then we have the feeling body, the will. This is the water. This is the subconscious mind. This is the etheric realm. It's the sacred bridge. Then we have the fire, which is the unconscious mind. Now that looks after the spirit, or the heart portal, the higher self, and your will center. So not so much, the will center. It's more of the heart union with the unconscious world. Okay, and then we finally have the element of air, which is the superconscious. Then this is the eternal spark, the absolute. This is the bridge to the divine. Okay, so these 4 levels are really about being in alignment. And when those are in alignment, because firstly, once the emotional body is clear, okay, because what's happened is if the heart center is closed down, which it is in most human beings, you cannot access, your spirit cannot access and ground into the physical body. And that's what all this work is about. It's about actually grounding consciousness back into the body, not ascending somewhere. Okay, so once that comes in, you are totally aligned with all the higher aspects of yourself. So if the heart center is closed, the feeling body, which is our emotions, cannot work properly. Okay, and if that can't work properly, the human body cannot work properly. All right, and that's where we get all the illnesses, muscle misalignments, all the rest of it. So when the feeling body becomes active, when we've processed that trauma in our emotional bodies, the physical body will start to work correctly. Then the meridian system will start to work correctly, and then the heart center will open. Okay, once that happens, that's when the heaven on earth analogy comes from. Okay, because you're actually bringing your own divine consciousness back into the body. Okay, so a disease or an illness is a long-held resistance to those 4 levels of being that I've just explained. Okay, because polarity has to swing. Now, what appears to be apart is not, because the whole universe has a lattice or a grid work which allows molecules and atoms to swing in the oscillation. So everything has a grid work between it. It's the same as when a wave goes in and comes out. It's actually the same energy pushing and pulling on itself. So it's polarity. Okay, so what happens in like sickness or illness, for example, is the polarity gets polarized in one end. So it's not allowed to swing. So that's when you get liver disease or cancer. It's the same thing. It's because polarity has not been allowed to swing. Now you've got things like mental illnesses on the rise, like schizophrenia, all the mental illnesses. So basically what's happening, like for example, bipolar, is that's divine consciousness is trying to merge with the person. Now it can feel quite tumultuous, and terrifying for a lot of people, and what appears to be terrifying even to outside people looking in. But it's not, because what's happening is that divine consciousness is trying to merge with the person to break the polarity of the polarization. So it's building momentum to break one polarity against another. Okay, so when that polarization is allowed to swing and oscillate, it frees the soul, it frees the emotional body, the mental body. And the only reason people get mental illness is because they have denied their emotional body. Now what happens is they can have, depending on their numerology and their birth date, they could have a lot of their patterns in the mental field, the higher chakras. So again, what is trapped, what's denied, what's repressed, that hasn't been expressed, will come into either a mental or emotional illness, depending on the person. Okay, so it's divine intelligence merging to break one polarization from one polarity against another. So this is again part of the quantum, and I'll be teaching all this when I put all the courses out. This is all part of it, and all the advanced numerology, so you can work out your own patterns and stuff. This activation will be about removing cellular misinformation, and it's going to be taking the imprint of the cross out of our DNA. All right, because this doesn't matter how much you've worked on yourselves. We have multidimensional lives, and we have parts of ourselves still existing in those ancient times where the church was very much in charge. So like the virus removal, this might be a good experience. It might bring up a lot of different feelings, who knows. I'm just going to do it in the moment, and we'll channel it through. Okay, so if you just want to get comfortable, and it'll only take a couple of minutes. And for those of you who haven't done the last, didn't do the virus clearing, and I said in the ancient days, in the ancient ways, we just turn up to the temples, and these activations and clearings would be done with no spoken word, because the intention is already set. So actually the soul, like I said, divine current's doing the work. We're going through an imagination, a procedure, because we are more rigidity, we're stuck in 3D, so it gives the conscious mind something to do, but it also sparks your own imagination and your own ability to heal yourselves, because we all have that ability. Okay. So just close your eyes, nice and comfortable. Just take a moment just to let any stress and anxiety or any tension in the body, just breathe it out. In through the nose, out through the mouth. So you just need to allow and give permission for divine current to move into your system. And you can just start to feel maybe something around the forehead or throat. And just breathe through the throat and crown chakras. And just see them soften, expand, and start to open. Now already, because obviously we're tuning in from a different density of awareness, it's the anxiety that is held in the cellular memory around this religious program, and that's what I'm being shown straight away. So there's a lot of anxiety, because when we're fed misinformation, it takes us out of alignment, and of course we go into fear. Fear creates anxiety. So that's been sitting at the base of most of humanity for thousands of years. So what we're going to do, and they're showing me, and I'm just going to show you as I'm seeing it, is I just want you to imagine a cross in front of you in your imagination. And of course I'm being shown straight away the cross is up here like it is on the church. It's like you're less than, you're always having to look up at it. So it's again, it's about you're subservient, you need to be on your knees. That energy is all projected. And of course, you know, the churches are all built on ley lines. Now ley lines are power centers, as most of you are probably aware, the same as the meridian system of our body. So they're all designed that when you come into the church, you're immediately starting to be stripped of your power because of the way the east, west, north, south divide of how they're laid, these churches. So as you envision this cross, the conflict which it represents is immediate. So just let any feelings come up in your body. You may not be feeling anything, but if you are, just give it love, give it thanks, because emotions are divine messengers. They're there to serve us, to show us where we have disconnected or where we're too conditioned. Now, as the channeled message said, we're going to put a circle around it, which is the divine feminine, which will neutralize. Because just your intention to do this is already removing much of the cellular network of misinformation. But for our imaginations, and so we can feel part of the process, let's now draw a circle around the cross. And then let that circle and cross start to become magenta, deep rose pink, the divine feminine colour. And I want you to thank the cross for the experience, because without the darker forces, we would never learn to be who we're not meant to be. We would never realise that which we are not. We would never learn the lesson of sovereignty, taking back our power. So we always give thanks to the shadow. So thank you, cross, for the experience. I now take my power back. I now wish to realign with truth and divine consciousness. And you can take this a little bit deeper, and you can go in and just imagine a cell and all of that misinformation that's been polarized, starting to swing in the magnetics, and start to see the cells fill with this magenta, deep rose pink. Just the intention and imagination. You don't have to try and visualize what a cell looks like. Just hold the intention to do it. Okay, jolly good, guys. So yeah, so that was good. That was good. You can definitely feel the energy that's at the base of human consciousness when you go into that, and definitely the anger around it. Now, we all have an original soul wound. Now, this original soul wound will be taught in the teachings. It's part of the advanced numerology. And basically, when we are created, the male and female, or the creator forces, come together like a human man and woman to fuse their energy. They create the soul. Now, depending on this is what got me as well. Consciousness is not perfect, and the divine feminine and the divine masculine are sometimes in conflict with each other. Now, there are many souls that have been created when the male and female energies were in a lot of conflict, and it's left them in a lot of despair. And they're actually on our planet at the moment. And they are the ones you see walking down the street with their heads. These are the ones that are in the circus, you know, what we call freaks, the ones that are sort of disassociated from the mainstream. And they're the ones that are, their energy, they've really been trying to get off the planet for a long time. And they've said that a lot of our problems on the planet are due to their energy fields, because when they were created, there was so much uneasy energy, and they felt really abandoned and really angry at the creator forces because they were just sort of left. Now, this is how it's been explained to me. They've gone out because when souls are created, they'll go out to all the different aspects or universes, and they will attach to evolved light body consciousness or planets or evolving advanced light beings, depending, and then they will establish a foothold, a home, and then they will go out and explore physicality and all the different realms from that base. And then obviously then we are split multidimensionally, so then the soul and spirit will shred itself. So basically what's been told is that they came to Earth, but their energy field is not in alignment with the consciousness of Earth. So they've been trying to get off the planet, and unfortunately their heart souls have been working very hard, but they're so caught up in the karma of the planet that it's been very hard for them to move off. So these original soul wounds we have are what we have with the male and female. So depending on the energy signature, as I just said, we will take that on as betrayal, abandonment, denial, I'm not good enough, and all the beliefs that we've created. But we all have this original soul wound at the spirit level. And that is very interesting, because when you start to work at that level, it's amazing how much that clears on a multidimensional level, because that is one of the first traumas and belief systems created. And we're talking, you know, most souls are millions of years old, so we're talking a long time. But we're in a space now, as we're shredding this 3D, to actually be able to access that and heal that part of ourselves very, very quickly, where in other timelines that may not have been the case. So we'll be discussing a lot more about that, and when I put the courses out in the next few months, I'll let you guys know, and there'll be some activations about actually activating our highest temple of light while living in a third dimensional reality. And once that's activated, it will flood everything into your consciousness. So it's basically, you could say it's a doorway. It's a powerful awakening program. But I'll talk to you guys about that later. All right, thank you. And I'll see you all next week. Have a lovely weekend. Take care.